All right, today we're diving into one of the most stubborn dangers in the digital world, authentication failures. Now, this isn't just some super technical jargon, right? It's the very reason a single stolen password can bring a whole company's security crashing down. So, let's get right into it. Just look at this number for a second. Over 1.1 million. That is the number of times this specific failure was found in applications tested for a recent OWASP report. We're not talking about some rare theoretical flaw here. This is a massive, real-world problem hitting the systems you and I use every single day. I want you to think about it like this. Your app is basically a fortress. It's got these high walls, all your valuable data is tucked away safely inside. Well, authentication, that's the main gate. It's the bouncer deciding who gets in and who gets kicked out. But if the lock on that gate is flimsy, or even worse, just left wide open, well, none of those other defenses really matter, do they? Okay, let's put an official name to it. We are talking about A07 Authentication Failures from the OWASP Top 10 list. Now, OWASP, that's the Open Web Application Security Project, their list is pretty much the gold standard for the most critical security risks out there. And what's really telling is that this vulnerability has been stubbornly stuck at number 7. It is a persistent threat that just refuses to go away. So what is it exactly? Well, at its heart, an authentication failure is when an attacker can basically pull a fast one on your system, tricking it into thinking they're somebody they're not. They show up with fake credentials, and the system's gatekeeper just waves them on through, saying, "Welcome, come on in." So how does this actually happen? It's hardly ever just one single mistake. It's usually a whole bunch of little weak spots in how a system checks who you are. Let's break down some of the most common ways this gate gets left unlocked. The weak points are all over the place. For example, maybe an app doesn't stop an attacker from just hammering it with thousands of password guesses a minute. That's a brute force attack. Or it lets users pick passwords like password 123. A huge one, a really big one, is missing or badly set up multi-factor authentication. It can even be something subtle, like not properly logging you out when you just close a browser tab. Every single one of these is a potential way in. To really get a handle on the risk, we have to think like an attacker. They aren't sitting there guessing passwords one by one. No way. They have automated tools and some really clever strategies to exploit these weaknesses. Let's walk through a few of their go-to moves. So this is a pretty slick evolution of a classic attack. You've probably heard of credential stuffing, right? That's just trying lists of stolen passwords. But attackers got smarter. Now they run hybrid attacks like this. They know that when we're forced to change our passwords, a lot of us just increment a number at the end. So their script tries a known password, say winter 2025, and if that doesn't work, it automatically tries winter 2026, then winter 2027. It's so simple, but it is brutally effective. And that attack perfectly shows why some of our old security habits actually made things worse. We used to think forcing people to change their passwords every 90 days was a brilliant idea, but all it did was encourage that exact predictable behavior that these hybrid attacks thrive on. The modern standard, which comes from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, says to focus on length, and this is crucial. Check new passwords against lists of ones we already know have been stolen. Okay, here's another one that is just terrifyingly common. Imagine you're at a library, you use a public computer to check your email, and when you're done, you just close the tab. You think you're logged out. But if the application doesn't properly end your session on their server, the next person who sits down can just reopen that browser and boom, they're in your account. The gate was never relocked behind you. Okay, enough with the scary stuff. The good news is these are absolutely solvable problems. We know how to build a stronger gate. So let's flip this around and talk about prevention. How do we actually build a secure system?
Seriously, if you take only one single thing away from this whole explainer, please let it be this. The single most effective way to shut down automated attacks like credential stuffing is multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Requiring that second check, a code from your phone, a tap on a security key, it means a stolen password by itself is completely useless to an attacker.
And here it is again, that kind of counterintuitive but totally critical advice straight from the experts at NIST. Stop forcing people to rotate their passwords all the time. It actually does more harm than good because it trains us to create weak, predictable passwords. The modern way is to only force a change when you have a good reason to believe the old one might be compromised. So building that strong gate, it's a checklist, not a single magic bullet. First, you enforce MFA. You get rid of silly default passwords like admin/admin.
You check new passwords against lists of breached ones. You manage user sessions properly on the server, and you make sure to kill them after a logout. You slow attackers down by limiting how many times they can fail to log in. And finally, whenever you can, just use a battle-tested pre-made system instead of trying to roll your own from scratch. So when you put all these different pieces together, a pretty clear picture starts to form. The problem isn't just about bad passwords. It's about an outdated way of thinking about identity. And we're thankfully starting to move past it. And this right here is the key takeaway. Securing that fortress gate isn't about finding one magical unpickable lock. It's about layers. It's about having a strong lock, which is your password policy. It's having a guard who checks IDs, that's your MFA. And it's having a rule to automatically lock the gate after someone leaves. That's proper session management. It's a smart, multi-layered system. So as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with this question. Passwords have been our default for decades, but as we've seen, they're fundamentally flawed. Right now, we're just putting layers on top of them to fix things, but what comes next? What does a truly modern, secure digital identity look like when we finally move beyond the password entirely? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.